Hello, my wonderful spooky friends. If this is your first time to my channel, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Emily, and today I am bringing you another spooky Sunday on parallel universes. So get your conspiracy caps ready because this one's about to get a little bit wild. So today's spooky Sunday is going to be all about parallel universes. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about them, but we are going to be covering them A to Z here today. But the first time that I ever heard about parallel universes, it absolutely fascinated me. It's something that has totally compelled me ever since I first learned about this. And I essentially just accepted parallel universes for what they were, and I believed it straight out the gate because somehow all of this just seems right to me, and it seems like it could be something that is probably going on. But before I confuse you guys anymore, let's go ahead and jump right on into what the heck parallel universes are and what makes them so mysterious and so weird. Parallel universes were originally thought up by a young Princeton University doctoral candidate named Hughes Everett III. In 1954, he came up with the idea that there might be other universes in existence that are exactly like our universe. They are all related to ours, they all branch off from ours, they are essentially the same exact thing, but they do not exist in the same realm that our universe does. Now, scientifically speaking here, the definition of a parallel universe is a hypothetical, self-contained reality coexisting with one's own. A specific group of parallel universes are called a multiverse, although this term can often be used to describe the possible parallel universes that constitute reality. So to give you an example of what a parallel universe is in layman's term here, when you go to a store and you decide to get cheddar cheese over mozzarella cheese, somewhere in another parallel universe that is almost identical to ours, you decided to choose the mozzarella cheese instead of the cheddar. Essentially, this theory says that there are a bunch of universes that basically stem off from our decisions and from what we do in life. So if we decide to go to Subway one day instead of Taco Bell, in another universe we went to Taco Bell instead of Subway. Everything in parallel universes supposedly is very slight in difference, so I could basically have green eyes and red hair in another universe, and in this universe I obviously have brown eyes and brown hair, but my characteristics and my personality could be exactly the same. So you're probably thinking, this all sounds really far-fetched, doesn't it? Well, there's actually been some scientific proof and some scientific theories that have been put into place that actually somewhat prove the existence of parallel universes. So we are all very familiar with the Big Bang Theory. It's what gave us our lives, it's what gave us our universe and our planets. It was essentially in the right place at the right time and was able to essentially create itself and create all of this wonderful goodness that we have around us. But the theory goes that if the Big Bang Theory was powerful enough to create our universe, why the heck would it just stop at our universe? In theory, it would make perfect sense that this would happen all the time. I think that it makes way more sense that this would be happening often, if not all the time, and that all of these universes could be being created as we speak. An infinite number of universes could be being created in the same exact way that we were supposedly created. Why the heck would we stop and think that we were the only ones that were created this way? Why would we think that we are the only ones who had this happen? That doesn't make any sense. At least to me it doesn't. So the second theory actually revolves around a specific machine that's in Switzerland, and you may have heard of this before because it is very well known and very controversial for a lot of reasons. And yes, I am talking about CERN, the largest hadron collider in the world and the largest machine in the world. Located miles beneath Switzerland, the largest hadron collider, or the largest particle accelerator, exists and thrives to this day. It was created by CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. The purpose of this large hadron collider is to study microscopic particle collisions at 1/3 the speed of light. Essentially, this machine slams molecules and particles into each other extremely fast, 1/3 the speed of light, which, if you don't already know, the speed of light is the fastest that we know of. It's the fastest thing in the entire universe. So this machine slams particles together and essentially creates mini black holes. Now I'm sure you can understand why this is so controversial. Although it might be controversial, CERN has let us know how black holes might actually work and has let us know on some scientific information that we would not be able to find out on our own. Since CERN is always monitoring how these particles react when they are slammed into each other at 1/3 of the speed of light, they have come up with a hypothesis that it might be possible that parallel universes exist in the form of black holes, or might be accessible by going through these black holes. CERN hypothesizes that the rest of the gravity might be spread out amongst other parallel universes, thus leaving us with an extremely low sense of gravity on this planet. I mean, it's literally weaker than a fridge magnet. Think about that. Honestly, that makes me a little bit uneasy here, and it kind of makes me feel like we can fly off at any second. So let's hope we don't. Another theoretical piece of proof that we have showing us that the multiverse exists and that parallel universes might not be so far-fetched is called the double slit experiment. The double slit experiment consisted of a piece of paper with two slits in it, with electrons set up to fire at it to see how the electrons penetrated the paper. Behind the piece of paper was a wall, and they essentially wanted to shoot two different particles of atoms at this piece of paper with the slits in it to see how it would affect the wall behind the paper. So theoretically, we should see two different slits on the wall behind it where it went through the paper. After firing the electrons, scientists were extremely confused when instead of two slits on the paper, they found a wave-like pattern, which is very abnormal because these particles should have created the two slit shapes on the back wall that the paper was up against. But instead they created a wave pattern acting as waves instead of particles. To make matters even stranger, scientists set up a camera to see which slits the electrons were going to see how this wave pattern was being created. And while the camera was set up, the scientists fired the electrons at the slits in the paper, and instead of creating the wave pattern, they created what they should have in the beginning, the two slit patterns on the opposite side of the wall. After a few tests, they did discover that when they brought out the camera to observe the particles, they would act as particles, but when they took the camera away, they would act as waves, which is extremely abnormal, and they were almost acting as if they knew they were being observed. Essentially, the scientists were able to hypothesize and theorize that these particles were being in two different places at one time, therefore adding another piece of evidence towards the parallel universe theory. So the next possible proof of this parallel universe and multiverse theory is ghosts. Stay with me here. This one is pretty interesting. Many people have paranormal experiences in their lives, myself included. And we often think that it's a deceased loved one or a ghost passing through, someone trying to make contact with us. But what if I told you that that might be completely wrong? What if I told you that these supposed ghosts might be another version of you or another person in a parallel universe, essentially passing through ours or getting very close to ours? Some people believe that these parallel universes might end up very close to ours and therefore creating a very thin veil between our world and theirs. So when you hear a bump in the night or you think you see something out of the corner of your eye, it might not actually be a ghost in theory. It might actually be another person going about their daily lives and doing their daily business, not bothered, just trying to live their life. That would be a very strange thing, wouldn't it? And finally, we are going to be wrapping up this video with my personal favorite parallel universe and multiverse possible piece of evidence. And we were always brought up knowing that there were 3 dimensions, but recently, over the past couple of decades, scientists and mathematicians have actually discovered that there is a 4th dimension, and we have had very minimal glimpses into it. Scientists and mathematicians can't really fathom or understand what it is, but we do know that sometimes we can get glimpses into it. Now, this theory gets really deep and really intense and has to do with a lot of quantum physics that I personally know nothing about. So these mathematicians are essentially able to see into the 4th dimension via quantum physics. I don't know anything about that, so I'm not even going to try to touch that situation. Although I might not know exactly how we're able to get glimpses into the 4th dimension, we do know that it is supposedly there. What it is exactly is kind of up to debate. A lot of people believe that this is a spiritual realm, hence the ghost thing we just talked about. So according to these quantum physics that these scientists and mathematicians have discovered that have led them to the 4th dimension, breaching this 4th dimension would essentially be traveling through time. If you've ever seen the movie Interstellar, they do an amazing job at conceptualizing this idea, and it essentially goes back to what we talked about with CERN. Through quantum physics and through what they found at CERN, they've essentially discovered that we could possibly enter the 4th dimension via black holes, and this would essentially take us into the space-time continuum, and we could possibly travel back and forward in time. but it wouldn't actually be going back and forward in time on a linear scale. In the movie Interstellar, it is all about this concept. It is about time travel, it is about hopping through parallel universes, and they essentially draw a straight line back and forth, which is the linear timeline that we live in now. And the dude picks up the paper, folds it in half, and slams a pencil through it, going through the line.
So they say you want to go from here to there, but it's too far, right? Mm-hmm. So a wormhole bends space like this, so you can take a shortcut through a higher dimension.
And this was a representation of what it would be like to travel back and forth through time. You wouldn't be going back and forth on the linear universe. You would be going straight through the universe into another one where everything is almost identical, but 2% or 3% off. Just like I was saying at the beginning, how parallel universes are essentially just like ours, which is a little bit tweaked here and there. I know that's a lot to handle and a lot to think about, but I think it is so freaking fascinating, and I know that Stephen Hawking was really into figuring this out around the time of his death, and he was putting a lot of research into it, and I think that someday we will figure out what the heck is going on with black holes, and what the heck is going on with the fourth dimension in these possible parallel universes and multiverses. But I absolutely love the parallel universe theory, and I believe it 100%. Even if it's not true, I love it and I want to believe it because I think it's so cool. And I don't know, I kind of hope that it's true because I think it's just a really cool idea and it's a really cool concept, and it makes me feel like we are more than just this universe. It makes me feel like we have way more purpose knowing that there are all these other universes out there. That's freaking awesome in my opinion. But that's going to be wrapping up this week's Spooky Sunday for me. I know this one was a lot and it got real kind of deep and weird, but I really love this theory and I hope that you were able to enjoy it as well. Please do let me know down below in the comments if you've heard of this before or if you have any other cool theories about it or theories that you've heard. I am always loving this type of topic, so please do comment down below if you have anything to add to the conversation. But I do hope that you consider subscribing if you have not already. I am doing Spooky Sunday every single Sunday, and during the rest of the week I have all sorts of makeup goodness happening right here on this channel, so I hope that you consider hitting that subscribe button down below, and I hope you consider giving this video a big old thumbs up, and of course turning on that notification bell if you enjoy my videos and you want to come back and watch them. But I hope you are having an absolutely fantastic, wonderful, and slightly spooky day wherever you are, and thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you next time. Bye!